Okay. So if this isn't working, I am going to cry. Let's see. Inputs should be okay. That's it. Inputs okay. So that should be it. We should be live, or there should be at least some audio here. Hopefully, we're okay. And if not, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and delay this. Hmm. Mm, Yep, we're good, Nathan. Yay! If it works, it's good. If not, oh, thank God. Well, I suppose today's been a bad day from the start, so I'll tell you a bit more about that. Nathan, thanks for giving me the thumbs up there. Yeah, I suppose, like, I've done 2 streams now, no technical glitches, so I have all the technical glitches come at me at once. Yeah, we're okay. So we got there, and now we know what the problem was. Um, yeah, the reason today is late, obviously, besides this technical glitch that happened, was I pulled a bit of a die another day on it. I was going for a swim in the gym, went for my swim, and when I was all done, I'd hung up my towel and it was gone. So, like, no towel, had to do a bit of a diner day and stroll straight into reception and ask for a towel nonchalantly. Fortunately, that worked and I wasn't left there to dry slowly. But yeah, that's just waiting for a towel and that makes up. So getting back. So that delayed me getting here and setting up for the day. And then secondly, this technical glitch, and I was putting these headphones on, being like, why is that audio not working? And then listening and oh, it's going nuts. So yeah, let's that's what happened to me on this day. Thank God we're all up and running. We'll I'll just chat for a minute now because obviously there's probably a lot of people expecting this at 1 and now it's 25 to 2. So bad on my part, but hopefully some other people get to join. Um Lots to talk about in this stream. Firstly, actually, will I put it in? No, wait a minute. Um, Firstly, just the format for all those who are going to be joining in. Format is the same as always. 30-minute live stream. Talk about a topic. Maybe address the last week's news. Answer questions as I go along, and then at the end, I'll finish off and answer everyone else's questions, and just have a bit of fun. This is not too serious, but like it's good to get everyone chatting and people like Nathan telling me my sound is okay. Um Hopefully, yeah, Neil was online and he disappeared, so hopefully Neil gets in. Um to start with, I'm just very interested. I will probably ask this next week because there'll be a better kickoff, but the people watching would be great to know where exactly you guys are watching from. I don't think there's a lot of Irish people who watch this, but there's other people too, like a lot of British people, the occasional Americans, but I think the time difference stops the Americans watching. So it's mainly British people who watch these live streams. Yeah, and yeah, I think I'm going to Britain in the next couple months as well. We're just nailing down plans with my friends. Have to figure out what that is, but I'll be updating you. I'm shooting today as well. My Sanders kind of more in depth video on the shoes. I released a kind of quick overview of the shoes there, but obviously in the field, trying them out, letting you guys know exactly what I think about these James Bond shoes. Very good, Nathan. Yeah, I thought you were in the UK. And then I think Neil is as well. And then there's some other people who like to tune in. Got an American contact me as well. So, um, also, I was kind of in the lead up to this one. I was rewatching, as it's called in America, Ferrari, Ford v Ferrari, or Le Mans '66. It's really good, that film, and it's feels more like an old school film versus what they're making nowadays. It's very much not that cookie cutter blockbuster. It's very classically written. Feels like it was written by William Goldman or something, versus the kind of the style of humor and stuff that you find in the Marvel movies these days. Highly recommend that if you haven't seen it. I think it's on Disney. Well, it's on Disney here, maybe that in Disney as well in the UK. So yeah, and then obviously I'm watching Breakpoint, the tennis show on Netflix, which is really interesting too. Don't know why, but Netflix, well, I do know why. They just look at their analytics and go, yeah, documentaries seem to do well. And then they saw that what you call it, the Formula One documentary series is doing deadly. So they're like, okay, we're gonna do golf, we're gonna do tennis, and they kind of just stuck with it, and they're probably doing all the sports before you know it. To talk about last week's stream went really well. I was actually surprised by how much engagement was going on and all the people that took part in the chats and all that. And I was really happy with it. Feels like it might be just Nathan and myself today, though, after my bad etiquette when it came to streaming. I just wanted to talk very quickly about the last time I checked in on the poll and the results of that. What I thought was really interesting is no one actually voted for Halong Bay, which was sort of disappointing because I have these great memories of Vietnam and traveling through there with my friend. And it's probably one of those places people haven't been to, so they don't rate it at all in terms of what they expect on Bond locations. And, it's not a classic Bond location either. It showed up in Tomorrow Never Dies, and the majority of the Vietnam stuff wasn't actually shot in Vietnam either. So people probably underestimate that. London actually won, which I was like, really? Maybe Nathan or someone else voted and they can contribute why in the chat. But I think London, as I said last week, is one of those places. The adventure doesn't start till Bond leaves London, usually. And so when London hit number one, I was like, oh, that's strange. Maybe if people want to comment and let me know why or where in London they would love to see me explore, I can go visit those Bond locations because I've been to Hammersmith, I've done a Whitehall video. I thought you were just being patriotic, Nathan, and voting for London. um, yeah, Nathan saying he missed the poll, but yeah, l- like so I've done a good few London videos, and maybe I've missed something, and I'll definitely because I would be over there enough to fit in another location video next time I'm there. London was 33% of the vote. Estoril and Lisbon was 27, and that was joint with Istanbul as well, which I'm happy that more people voted for those types of locations as well. And that might be it. It might have just split the vote. People were sort of going, oh, the people who wanted foreign locations were like Estoril, Istanbul, and they had to pick between one of those versus everyone who said London just went for it. Neil, you're the best. I'm glad you got here eventually. Uh, Sorry about the bad timing. Uh, I vote Jamaica. Yeah. Nathan, Jamaica. So what I did was when I was creating the list last week, I just did it strictly on places I'd been to. And I very much was like, okay, Nassau is not going to be in this. Kingston, Jamaica is not going to be in this. This is a bond places I've been, my favorite bond locations. So Como was 13%. So between Como, Istanbul, and Estoril, those were sort of the very popular foreign locations. And then I threw in Halong Bay just because I like it. But London 33% really got me thinking. I was like, God, maybe I'm missing something there in my location video. So outside of Hammersmith, Whitehall, Q's House, and Westminster Bridge, let me know if there's a Bond place that he's been that I should go. And yeah, I'll attack that one next time I'm in London. Seems like we've got the numbers up eventually there after my late start. Thanks for joining, everyone. I was just Nathan saying, shame we can't get underground. We might have to try something there. Um, yeah, people not liking Vietnam was funny though. Think it might be just because not a lot of people have actually been there. Um, but it was a great chat and created a lot of conversation. The poll that I put up that Nathan didn't contribute to kind of exploded, and there was a lot. There's a group of people that are very much pushing for a future topic to be the From Russia with Love fight scene, and not the one on the train. So I'm gonna have to sit down, reread the novel, rewatch the scene, maybe look at behind the scenes and talk about that scene down the line. Yeah, I'll do a bit of a live stream and we can talk about the actresses, the what Fleming was going for, what the producers were going for. I do to briefly think about it that scene, the camp fight scene between the women. So one of these really interesting things that Fleming tried to do. He was writing these novels for people living in England or America and kind of urban areas, and he was trying to capture an exotic new culture every time he was doing these stories. And so you were trying to expose very regular British people with day-to-day lives to things that they never experienced before. And this was one of those things. And he mixed exotic locations with kind of sexiness and then style as well. And he had a great interest in culture, and you always hear people say that about him. He was very intrigued by people and their backgrounds. So that was kind of just what that fight scene probably started from and then really evolved. And obviously in the chat or in the comments, it's really evolved for other people. Yeah, so I'll break down the scene and talk about Fleming, and then try not be controversial or get cancelled because I feel like it's on a knife edge. That one, we'll have to take a look at it. There's definitely a passionate crew of lads in the chats, and so I'll explore it and hopefully create a lot of engagement. There's probably room for casual streams with people to discuss controversial Bond scenes, uh, and what they were going for at the time, maybe how perception of it has evolved in different directions and why people don't like it, but maybe how people are overreacting or underreacting in other cases as well, being like, oh, that's not even talked about, and that's controversial, and then that's always talked about. And in the context of the story, it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really push any boundaries or in character of certain people to act like that, especially when villains are doing bad things and people say it's controversial. I always go, he's the villain. Like, who cares? So he's supposed to be bad. Anyway, that's a tangent. I probably should have saved that tangent for the actual stream when that contingent of people get what they want. um, what are you saying, Nathan, about Skyfall in London? I think the Skyfall set was down south, and the ending was in Scotland. And Neil says at least the set in the story. Yeah, so in Skyfall, they drove the Aston Martin up to Scotland, and the valley where that scene is shot, that is in Scotland. And then the actual house they built down in the south in England and shot those sequences there. They were using a castle at one stage, and the owner of the castle, I believe, pulled out at the last minute. So that's what happened with that Skyfall set. You can look it up. It's a beautiful kind of castle house on the side on a cliff face, and they were going to do it all there. Uh, but that fell apart. So they decided to build a set down in it wouldn't be too far from Pinewood Studios, so that's probably why they did it as well, more practical. Um, I'm gonna lash in today's topic, at least the question that I want you guys to answer. Better figure out if I know how to do this. Start a poll. And my question for the day is, because we're talking about cars, is should Bond drive electric? Yes and no. Ask your community is should, not is. Maybe I should get my grammar right. Should. Boom. There you go. Nathan, an electric Aston Martin, it's going to have to come at some point in the future. Maybe not in time for the next film, though. Boom. We're gonna have to talk about that at the end of this stream. But I will address that, and the poll is asking, is working anyway. I don't know. As long as it's an Aston Martin. Yeah, okay. So I'll just quickly do an overview and then we'll talk about Aston Martin. The four people watching vote on whether you think it should be a yes or a no for Bond driving an electric car. Now, the topic is what should Bond drive in the future? And I'm not talking Bond um driving Bond 26. I'm more thinking macro future, especially like my first stream. The people asking the question of what's the future of the franchise, I'm sort of asking what do we think Bond should be doing car wise into the future? Um, and where should Bond go next for these cars? We have in terms of the questions that I'm asking you guys, and I'll probably put a poll up next week. Aston Martin, Bentley, Lotus, BMW, and then I just thought I'd throw in McLaren for the crack. See what people think of a new car coming into the whole thing versus an existing car. An honorable mention. Oh, nearly knocked my light over. An honorable mention would be Jaguar, but just an honorable mention. It doesn't really sit right with me, and I know they were so close to having Bond drive a Jaguar in they were so close to having a Bond drive a Jaguar in Quantum of Solace, but that fell apart because it was revealed that Ford still owned a minor stake in Aston Martin, so that loophole came in. As long as it's an Aston Martin, I've lost the pole pick. Union Jack and all. Yeah, well, see that's the thing. Austin Powers did it best. So why Austin Powers did it best. So why would they kind of try to one up that? Those five stuck out to me, the first five, and I'll just slowly go through them. To start off with, Aston Martin is cinematic James Bond, and in the Goldfinger novel, he drives a DB Mark III, which actually is a lovely reference in Batman v Superman. Ben Affleck's Batman drives the Goldfinger novel James Bond Aston Martin. Probably one of the only lovely references in that movie. So I think yeah, I think the that Aston Martin is beautiful. And Aston Martin and Cinematic Bond then, because of Goldfinger, is just the car actually. That. So um I don't think there's any question that Bond fans are happy to see Bond continuing with Aston Martin. The only question is, do we continue to see the DB5 into the future? Um, I see Neil has got the poll back, and Nathan says, let's have the DB6 back for sure. I'd say DB5 is what he means. Um, the DB5 is in this weird phase where it's kind of being used too much in the series, and we have to pull it back to make it special again. I think, anyway. It's what actually happened was I was listening to Martin Campbell, the director of GoldenEye, speak about this when he wanted to reintroduce Bond after the Cold War and then Brosnan and that hiatus. He just thought the DB5 was a brilliant way of doing that, and it was so iconic. And the series, ever since GoldenEye, has been sort of married to keeping Bond in that car ever since. So, um, like Campbell said he wanted that just for that scene. And then afterwards, they use it in Tomorrow Never Dies. There was actually a deleted scene in The World Is Not Enough where he's driving it as well. And actually, if the very end of the movie, when they're doing that satellite thing, you can see the outline of the DB5. So the DB5 has been used a lot. Then in Vanquish, obviously, in Die Another Day, which is fine. I like the idea of them using new Astons. And then Martin Campbell comes back in Casino Royale, and his sort of thing with the DB5 and introducing a Bond works its way into the script. Actually, funny little thing in really early drafts, he was going to find it wrecked and then rework it and rebuild the DB5. But then it was just cleaner for the plot, and it works better plot wise for him to win in a poker game. So that continues another decade or so of Bond being with the DB5. So what was sort of like a cinematic callback to attach a new Bond actor to the iconography and make it easy for him to be accepted makes it this thing where you have Casino Royale, Skyfall, Spectre, and No Time to Die all having the DB5 in it. And don't get me wrong, the DB5 is just one of the most iconic and beautiful cars ever. But you want to make it special, and by using it time and time and time again, I'm worried that it will lose some of that. Now, I think it is like the DB. The reason it's special in Skyfall is because of everything that's going on there. But if every single movie you're pulling open a door and there's a DB5 behind it, it's going to get old pretty quick. I think new Astons are great. Uh, the I think new Astons are definitely great, and the collaborating with Aston Martin seems to be working really well with them. The DB10 was really cool looking, and very much launched that new design language into the Aston Martin Vantage. If you watch my Whitehall video, there's a Vantage there, and it's beautiful. So I think, yeah, so I think the new language and Bond having like high tech, high performance cars is perfect for the character. And what we got to remember as well is like this was the cutting edge of grand touring, sophisticated vehicles back in the day. And does the series and Bond sort of become stale if it's the case? Whether or not, it, like, you want Bond to remain sophisticated, but he can't be like so old school that he's like not relevant, or it's unrealistic. Like he's going to get wrecked in a car chase or something. So I think the DB5 is brilliant, and when used sparingly, it works. You just don't want to overuse it. Now, let's see what the comments are saying here. Nathan, here's your new DB5 fitted with a top of the range electric engine. Um, the current king, I was going to call him Prince, was gifted a Aston Martin either DB4 or DB6 for his 21st birthday. And I believe they have retrofitted that now to have an electric engine in it. Nice 21st birthday present. And then Neil says Christopher Nolan admits nicking things from Bond. Yes, we insist on DB5. Brosnan's Aston dying a day. And then the six Aston Martin's corgi. Yeah, like there's no question that Christopher Nolan is completely influenced by Bond, and his influence in Bond has made its way into Batman, and then obviously Inception is like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, that whole sequence, and then Tenet. It's it's why I think that he is perfect for Bond, but we're getting completely sidetracked here, and I got to drag it back to the point. Yeah, it's Nolan though could definitely do Bond, and he'd probably use the new Aston Martin. He'd be afraid of pastiche. I think he'd very much want to do James Bond in his own way. There's a great relationship between Eon and Aston Martin. People love Bond and Aston. It's iconic, and there's room for that relationship to not only improve but continue to stay cool into the future. And I think retiring the DB5 for now would be a good move, and then move to the cutting edge of Aston Martin and pushing Aston Martin as well. It's a give and take relationship, and very much the DBS and the DB10 were worked with the Bond series to develop those cars. I'm sure they would have done something as well, but yeah. Um, that's my thoughts on Aston Martin. Also, another really interesting thing about Aston Martin in GoldenEye, they were supposed to use a DB7 for Bond's car, but Aston Martin couldn't deliver the car in time or something weird like that. And then that BMW relationship came together. I I was listening to a big like 2 hour conversation with Martin Campbell, and he said that. Now, um, I've gone back and tried to find the exact moment and record it because you use it for a video, but it's hard to find. I'm trying to figure out exactly where he said that again. Or am I making it up? No. Um, zero road taxes. Yeah, this will come into the poll at the end. I don't see Bond as a, zero road tax guy. Nolan would be a great choice. Yeah, it says Neil. First electric Teslas was in collaboration with Lotus. Yeah, Musk doesn't hide it. They bought a Lotus Elise, completely gutted it, and then built that first generation Tesla from it. Um, why? Yeah, the Roadster. Yeah, and now they're making their new generation Roadster. So now let's move on to okay. In Casino Royale, 1953 novel, Bond drives a Bentley, and this is my second thought on the car of the future Bond. So we all know the Bond relationship is with Aston Martin in terms of cinema. But in From Russia with Love, we kind of see a Bentley there. Never Say Never Again, then obviously they have a Bentley for Bond. Fleming's Bond loved his Bentley. And there's even a verbal reference to this in Goldfinger, where Sean Connery's Bond asks Hugh, "Where's my Bentley?" And Q says it's had its day, and then he gives him the DB5. I could definitely see Henry Cavill type Bond as he starts approaching 50 years old, driving a Bentley Continental. Um, I really think that would be a cool move for the series to make. The only concern is, does it damage that Aston Martin relationship? And that's probably like a big picture thing that they want to consider. But like the idea of Cavill, as he's getting a little bit older, being James Bond behind the wheel of a Continental, and I've seen those Continentals with uh, in a British racing green with a massive grill on it. And yeah, I could see his Bond driving it for sure. Yeah, I know they're kind of conflated with gangsters and rappers nowadays, but God, they be. I think there's something to be done there, and it's food for thought. They're really powerful cars, grand tours, comfortable, like different to Aston Martin, but would suit the next Bond, I think. Neil saying, I thought GoldenEye was average. Yeah, Jesus, Neil's going to be getting shot in the comments section. Mm. Tomorrow Never Dies, very good. Love Dr. Kaufman seeing Solo. Yeah, I really like Tomorrow Never Dies. It's weird. It gets a bad time. Yeah, but I think it's a great follow up to GoldenEye. I think GoldenEye works great too. That score is so hit and miss. Like the idea of doing the theme on the Timps, it's an idea, but it just doesn't. The whole score doesn't come together. Very strange. Uh, a slight location tangent. My pal and I went to Hamburg once, and it was definitely an experience. The Hamburg is this German city, and we flew in, and I flew on my own actually, right in the terminal where Brosnan gets the BMW from Q, which I'll follow on with in a minute. So to kind of round off my thoughts on the Bentley thing, Bond and Bentley have that literary relationship. Could you translate that into cinema? Because despite everything and a few little references here and there, there's actually never been a proper Bond Bentley. So could they do that for cinema? I think there's something there. I thought I would pull for number three. Yeah. Could you see a Bentley being thrown around back roads? I suppose it all depends on who's behind the wheel, doesn't it, Nathan? I'd give it a shot. Um, Lotus, I wanted to throw in here because Lotus has this relationship with Bond purely based on one person, Roger. Like, we conflate Lotus with Bond because of The Spy Who Loved Me. And even when a lot of people think of Lotus, they don't even consider For Your Eyes Only. But the Roger car was definitely a Lotus. And I wanted to put it in here as a sort of nod to how iconic that was. But when I was when I was researching Lotus, I would definitely say that the design language is strange, and I don't necessarily think it's ideal for Bond anymore. Now, maybe they'll come out of nowhere and design something really cool and sexy, and then everyone's like, "Yeah, Lotus again." But for now, maybe it's just not right for Bond, and I know someone is gonna someone is gonna go, oh yeah, the Tesla thing, because we've already talked about that here. I just, yeah, there's just cooler cars out there now than Lotus. It's funny how, but I do know they're deadly at handling. And maybe in 1977, pre Spy Who Loved Me, no one thought Lotus and Bond either, and it took the producers and Lotus working together developing this great car to make Bond and Lotus be a team. As Nathan throws in loads of trouble, usually serious. Yeah, that's for sure. um, that's that's my thought on Lotus. I like. Could I see them go into the future together? Maybe, but it just doesn't seem right. It does seem like a cameo thing, though. Like, imagine a Lotus in the background, sort of like the way you had Aston Martins in the background in the past. That does seem like a very big possibility. BMW. Now, this is a funny one. This all came off the back of this 1990s relationship. And in the younger days of the channel, I made actually a big video talking about this. What is really interesting about the BMW relationship is how much BMW thought this was great for their brand, especially the Z3 time. They the video that I made, it must be 10 minutes long, kind of goes into the relationship and then how the movies progressed and what happened. So it was really a running start and then slowed down. Going back to what I was saying about Hamburg, in Tomorrow Never Dies, Bond drives a 7 Series BMW, which is a strange choice for Bond. However, when you actually look at his cover story being a banker and stuff, the 7 Series does suit that choice. It's just not very Bond though, is it? And yeah, like it's this weird thing. It suits Hamburg, it suits Bond's cover, but it's not right. You know what I mean? Nathan's thrown in here. He's also driven a Ford Mondeo. He sure has. It was quite a high price tag that they charged for that moment. Um, the Z3 is the golden eye car, and the Z3 is a funny one. I think it's aged very badly, but like it's funny. Then I see a Z3 now, and then I go, "Geez, looks good." So I don't know why the Z3 was definitely really successful, and that whole thing and that relationship with GoldenEye really helped it. It just for me is not converted well into this century or decade. When going back to the Martin Campbell thing, from what I heard him say, they were working with Aston to produce the DB7 to be the Bond car for the movie, and it sort of fell apart. So the BMW relationship really slid in there. And the last car of that whole era was the Z8. I've been to Munich, and in the Munich BMW factory and museum, they have a Z8 on display. The Z8 is a nice car in movies, but God, when you see a Z8 in person or machine or whatever, like it is beautiful. I really think the Z8 is an amazing car. I know that the Z8 didn't click for BMW. They got a very famous designer in, they put a great engine in it. It was very expensive for the make, tight margins, but it stands up the test of time. And I think it's because it's based off that classic BMW. The design language is sort of timeless relative to the Z3, which is aged quite a bit. So if you're ever in Munich, besides going to Oktoberfest, I highly recommend going outside to the city, which was the Olympic Park, and now it's BMW factory, and seeing what they have there. They also have the Tomorrow Never Dies bike on display there, but the Z8 is really to be behold. Like it's something else. Let's see. Uh yeah, Neil saying he owns a Lotus perfectly parked next to his books on his shelf beside the Aston. um, it was a time and place thing, the BMW and Bond relationship. I don't know if it's really feasible now, this day and age. And Mission Impossible has this relationship with BMW now. It doesn't seem like they'd want to double dip in terms of getting BMWs in Bond and Mission Impossible. Uh, it doesn't seem right to me. Now, maybe the people at BMW would be keen on it, but then they have to, deracinate Aston Martin, whoever from the position. So I think having Tom Cruise do incredible stunts in their BMWs works better for them from now. BMW have this relationship with Mission Impossible series where they supply the cars for free. And kind of the trade off is like, okay, costs us whatever to give you the cars, but we get this great publicity of Tom Cruise or whoever doing crazy stunts in them. So when you look at Fallout, it's very much BMWs being driven around, and even the sequence where they're doing the getaway and they open the shed, it's an old BMW that he's driving. So the brand is very much front and center, even when it's not the latest thing. Excuse me. The final car I just wanted to throw in there for fun's sake was McLaren. Don't ask me why, but this brand really stuck out to me as something new and exciting for the series. Um, these are serious cars with an F1 team. And what I think made McLaren go in my brain, oh yeah, that's an idea, was that they're the cutting edge of engineering for automobiles, and you really want that sort of bond to be driving something that's exciting and new and fast. But the more I really explored it, I went, oh, this isn't the right car for Bond, although it's British and there's all that relationship there, or they're headquartered in England and they got that amazing factory there. This is a villain's car. So although I put McLaren in the list, the villain I think should drive a McLaren in one of the future films. Especially if you have a Bond villain that is like a counter Bond, and they're really two top level double O esque people going against each other. Him driving a McLaren would be pretty cool shout. My honorable mention, the last one, is Jaguar. Uh, to kind of go back to what I said, they had a near miss with Quantum of Solace. Quantum, there was in between Casino and Quantum, Ford had a deal with the Bond series to use Ford cars. So that's why in Casino you see Jaguars, Land Rover, Range Rovers, Aston Martins everywhere. And these were all underneath, and the Ford Mondeo. And these were all part of this big deal that Ford had with the series to use any cars underneath the Ford umbrella. And then subsequently, what happened was Aston Martin was sold to an Egyptian investor, I believe, after the Casino Royale thing. And there was a worry that Bond couldn't use the Aston Martin anymore because of this deal. And it was very much rumored that he would be driving the XF, which was the new car that Jag had coming out at the time. And they were pushing that. It subsequently came out that Ford held a percentage of Aston Martin, I believe. So on a technicality, they still got to use the DBS and Quantum, which I think works better naturally. The DBS is a beautiful car, and it's actually one of those cars is sort of timeless. That DB9 design language was beautiful, and they made it way more aggressive looking for a Craig Bond. Like the Jaguar thing is so weird because it sounds right for Bond, but then the more you think on it, it's like, does it really work? And maybe people in the comments can elaborate on this for me and maybe why I'm wrong or right. But it seems more like it's an M car than a Bond car. And I'm gonna have to think about this more. I think Jags are really cool. They've got a great brand name to them. And the Jaguar thing as well. Like it all, and it's British and it just sounds right. And then you just kind of go, oh no, it's more M, it's more different peripheral characters than Bond. Maybe you guys can tell me I'm wrong, but I feel it just, yeah. Yeah, Nathan, that's harsh. I'm gonna have to reflect on on the Jaguar thing. Maybe you guys can do so in the comments. To round off this whole conversation, God, these streams are getting longer and longer. Bond, the electric or petrol thing for Bond. I think it's safe to say diesel is not in the question for Bond. But yeah, I Nathan says I drive a Porsche, but can't see them going in that direction. The Porsche thing is funny, because like they're obviously highly respected vehicles, like a lot of German cars. I wonder, is there a thing where they're like, we don't want Bond driving German? Um, Everyone knows the Germans arguably build the best cars in the world. Germans would argue it's not arguable, but I'd be inclined to agree that German manufacturing is fantastic. I just think that they want to hold on to a British lineage when it comes to Bond, and the car thing seems to be definitely how they do that with the Aston Martin relationship, and that probably was a criticism of that BMW era. The Aston Neil says apparently Goldfinger was. Uh, yeah, Neil. That's I have heard that the E-Type Jag was supposed to be in Goldfinger, and they were going to have to. They wouldn't give it to them. And but sure, in Goldfinger, they had to pay for the Aston Martins as well. The the Bond petrol electric thing, to bring this to a close. It's funny. It's 100% no in the poll right now. Yeah, 100% no. Fair play, guys. I'll end that poll. Bond is old fashioned, but also cutting edge. And it's a good question why, whether he falls on the petrol or electric thing. And when you watch Skyfall, one of these sort of charming things of the themes of the movie is that Bond represents an older era. But then Bond throughout the series has been used like cues, gadgets, and brilliant cars, and has had an understanding of technology. So the electric thing is that like moment where you're like, oh, would Bond do it? And I know there was like headlines just in the lead up to No Time to Die where Kerry Fukunaga thought maybe. Um, I actually think the real future of Bond is in a hybrid technology. And is the reason I say this is because we have Formula One cars using hybrid technology in creating great results in terms of off the line starts, power, but then at the very high speed, the petrol combustion engine works best. You, I believe there's a Ferrari that is also hybrid at the moment that's incredible in terms of its speed and its performance. So, could you see Aston Martin in the near future developing a hybrid car, a sort of hypercar, maybe like the thing that Nissan Lynch drove? Probably, that style of car with a hybrid system in it. What I would say is the electric technology is very expensive, and I wonder would they do that first before hybrid? It's the whole infrastructure and investment is a lot, and it's a company like Aston Martin, it takes a lot for them to do that. But I could see Bond driving some sort of high tech hybrid system car, um, which really look more like that new Ferrari or you know, what the Formula One cars have at the moment versus it being fully electric. I think Bond as well, character wise, likes the engineering, likes the performance of the petrol cars. He's definitely not going to be the type of person that's interested in his carbon emissions or vehicle tax. Although he's interested in saving the world, I don't think it's that type of saving the world he's interested in. Um, yeah, he wouldn't really care about his carbon emissions. So Nathan, actually, we don't call it ULEZ or Z or whatever free. in Ireland, so I'm only guessing that that's something to do with the emissions of a car. The uh, bond definitely is like full on. Like you've seen from history, like it's the DB5, it's the V12s and the DBS and the Vanquish. Like Bond is not an electric guy. Now, if he thought his car could get greater performance by having a battery in it that used hybrid technology, he'd definitely be in on it. But you know, Q going, oh, here's your electric car, Bond. That would be like a joke to Bond. And I like this Teslas and those electric Porsches are really cool as well. I've seen those around, the new electric Audi, but it's not Bond, and we all know it right here. Like it's that's the thing. They'll probably announce it in the next year, and I'll be fucking hitting myself that I committed it to video. So, if there's any questions about the cars or anything else, throw them in the chat here. If you agree, it seems like the poll results suggest that people are like, no, Bond shouldn't drive electric. Let me know. And any more book videos coming is what Neil's asking. Yeah, really good question. I'm reading Agent Zigzag at the moment. I'll probably talk about it more on streams to make a proper video. I am going to delve into the other Bond books and then start reviewing them. At the moment, what's really catching my interest though is the travel stuff. The kind of not clothing like reviewing in terms of like, oh, here's the shirt, this is what it looks like on me. I like the idea of, showing you guys clothing items or Bond stuff, but also wearing them in the field and showing the action involved in it versus just sitting in the house and showing you the Bond clothes. Because I think it doesn't work unless you feel like it can translate to the real world and you can wear in the real world. So travel, Bond items, attire, etc. And then obviously some topic videos, which the book videos would definitely sit into. So I think, yeah, there's plenty more. There is definitely book videos to come. We're just going to have to see what the crack is there. Um, any more questions? You guys know where to find me. Uh, what do you think of Bond's choices for future cars? Stick with Aston or what I've listed out today? Tell me what you think. And yeah, time to wind down, I think, after 52 minutes of this. I can't believe it's going on this long. Fair play. You guys always keep me engaged when I'm talking. Well, I'd say for you guys to contribute more in terms of getting what you want from this channel, suggest what you want to see next outside of that bloody fight video, which I'm working on. Uh, suggest what you want to see next and just stay tuned. Contribute in the comments. I'm loving how much more active everything is nowadays. Like, share these videos with friends you think would enjoy them, and subscribe. Thanks for watching again. And Nathan, Neil, thanks for commenting so much in this video. Bye. Nathan, oh, jeez, before. Thanks. Thanks, Nathan. Love the travel videos. Well, more of those to come. Bye.